All right. I think we are up and running and good to go. Let's switch everything over and get started for today. I see Crusher in chat. You're up. What's happening, folks? Your Sundays are going well. Well, let's unmute that. Let's test out volume while we're getting started here. I'm going to just put on a real simple beat I made while we were getting loaded up. Let's put that in the background for now. How's the mic sound coming in? Crutcher says, I just woke up a little while ago. I feel that. I did not wake up an hour before stream today, but it still was not terribly early for Sunday. Hey, Iconic's here. What's up, Iconic? All right, getting the thumbs up on sound check. That's good. Okay, so what is the breakdown of stuff we're going to cover today? Kind of like we've done on previous jam streams here. We'll start with warm-ups, getting some basic drills going to get everything good and warm, and then from there we'll move into sound theory. And for sound theory, I want to spend some time today revisiting one of my favorite topics, and something we usually touch on every other stream or so, but we'll be talking about technicality and kind of building on some of our conversations from previous streams. We will be going through some drills and talking through some new sort of patterns I've been practicing and things that I've been kind of drilling through to get better. And then we'll sort of do a bit of a sound checkup on some of the technicality patterns we've talked about. Maybe look at experimenting around with putting some new ones together. And then maybe if we have time, we can do a sound checkup on inward bass, since that was the focus of the last stream that we talked about. Problem is, it takes me a long time to get warmed up to be able to do inward bass well. And I've been trying to get in the habit of doing warm-ups for that specifically before the streams, but it's a little difficult. But we'll see if we have time to talk about it today. And then we'll spend a decent amount of time working on BGM ideas. So I'll go ahead and get started with some warm-ups.
Money on my mother, mine. Cop 5 haircuts at the same time. White gold pants, jet ski made of wine. Foie gras bust of Albert Einstein, get money.
I had to change my sound settings so that the system alerts are coming through my headphones and not my desktop speakers. But Sour Lad has resubscribed. Thank you, Sour Lad, aka Best Mod. I appreciate it, dude. Sour Lad says, finally caught a stream. We're glad to have you here, Sour Lad. Once again, appreciate it and hope you enjoy hanging out while we beat up some boxes. All right, go ahead and clear this off. And I'll run through some practice drills, and we'll use this as a good opportunity to continue to test sound. I want to make sure I had to slightly tweak my loop settings just to get everything a little more balanced, but I shouldn't have to adjust anything else unless there's something wrong with the sound, and you folks will, I'm sure, let me know. Hey, Smalley's here. What's up, Smalley? Welcome to the jam stream. We are getting ready to do some warm up and go from there into some discussion about technique. So go ahead and get started, and we will get rolling. All right. Maybe I should tie in the warm up drills to the freestyle personal best thing that we haven't done in a bit. I want to get back to that at some point, because I think the last time we did one was like 18 minutes or something. But it's kind of difficult because the whole point of doing the warm up drills isn't to freestyle as long as possible. It's just to do things that are going to warm up all parts of the face anatomy. And so maybe we'll just continue to keep it separate for now. But part of the challenge is figuring out all sorts of ways to get stuff warmed up, in a sequence, rather than say, okay, I'm going to just do nothing but lip-based warm-up drills first and then move on. I'm trying to mix it all together so that you folks aren't just hearing something monotonous. And so sometimes when we do the warm-up drills, you'll hear me doing different types of lip-based sounds, things like lip oscillations, which I didn't do in this last set, but like which is a really good way to warm your lips up because you're letting them flap and getting a lot of blood circulating through them really quickly. If you go for something a little bit tighter, like a lip bass, which the prolonged buzzing, if you play a brass instrument, is something I'm not as good at. But if you do it in sort of shorter bursts for a kind of more tight resonant sound, that's how you're getting the. And then, like we've talked about before, with lip bass, you can layer your voice on top of it to harmonize or octave the sound. So instead of just a, you can go, and it's a little subtle depending on how you're setting the pitch for that lip bass noise, but you can put a sung note under or behind it. And so if you listen carefully, you can get kind of like these melodies and harmony type things, which is pretty fun. I wish I was a lot better at that. If you want to do more melodic routines, things that are playing around with different chords, essentially, lip bass is a great way to do that. And so I would like to get better at doing that to kind of add more to the skill set and give me more options when creating beats and routines. And so let me see. We'll kind of transition from warm up, since for the sake of the discussion on technicality, I don't need to warm up too much my voice. But let me change my caption. Smalley says, going now, but good luck with your beating of the box. All right, Smalley, thanks for popping in to say what's up. Hope you have a good rest of your day. And I will catch you in the next one. Okay. So let's talk about technicality. It's been a running topic on these jam streams because it's one of my favorite things to talk about in beatboxing. And it's infinitely complex. Maybe at some point, if we do another media share for beatbox content, showing off what some of the pros who've been doing this for a really long time out in the scene are capable of doing with these rapid combos of noises is leagues above anything I can do. It's pretty bananas, and it takes just lots of practice and experimentation. It's not like a muscle strength or like an actual power type of ability. It's just practicing consistency and comfort and muscle control or muscle memory more with the techniques. And that's kind of what goes into a lot of beatbox techniques. But for technicality specifically, each of the sounds in a lot of cases isn't necessarily complex on its own, but being able to do them fast, rapidly, and consistently without having your patterns get, muddy or start to fall apart, that's where all the practice comes in. And the pros out there have been doing it for probably thousands of hours in their careers, and that's why they're able to do what they do. And so talking about what we've covered on technicality here, as far as the things I'm working on, we've talked about the TKP, or TKB, PB are kind of synonymous and can be switched in and out there, used interchangeably. And we've talked about how stringing the TKP in between things is how you get a beat that sounds like, just for example, and that really rapid noise is the technicality being slotted in towards filler spots in between the snares, usually kick snares, hats, and you're filling it in with that sequence of sounds. And like we've talked about before, just practicing the speed is what allows you to get faster with it. And so if we were to take the sample beat and speed it up while trying to do that same triplet pattern of the TKP, it would sound like, and just in that really simple example, you're hearing the triplet sound start to shrink down more and more until it's pretty much fitting in like a half or quarter beat, and you almost don't hear it. All three sounds, they sort of meld together as you're doing it faster and faster. And then that's how you kind of build towards things like the TKP roll, where you're just doing the three sounds back to back in a chain, and it's a circular repeating sound like we talked about on the one technicality stream before. And that's the one that sounds like And it, again, starts to blend together into a continuous chain, but it's 3 sounds done extremely quickly, and you just practice doing that over and over again to get the speed. In addition to the TKP, which is the first technicality chain that I learned, we have the TKK, the one that I've been working on, probably the longest of the ones I didn't initially learn. Triplet sound set, and it's using a t hat sound, just a K sound, and a rim shot, which is an actual snare, which sounds like. And for the sake of discussion here, I know some of you have probably heard me talk about this already, so I'll make it sort of brief in the recap. But just in case people either haven't heard me talk about this for a while or are new to the discussion on technicality, I want to do kind of a quick breakdown just so it's not completely foreign what I'm talking about here. And so taking the TKK, and chaining that together, it becomes a. And then the practice there is just doing that over and over again until you can do the TKK on demand. And so chaining that one together, you can achieve the same sort of roll or circular sound that we did with the TKP. The tricky thing is the TKK is harder to do because it's muscle positioning with your tongue and in your mouth. It does require you to sort of set and reset a position, and that's what keeps it difficult. But the more you just train at it, the better you get at getting faster. And I'm getting there. Not where I'd like to be yet, but making steps closer towards that goal. And so if we were to take that and just do like the chain as fast as I could do it, it would sound like. Which isn't super fast. It's fairly rapid. But one thing I was doing as kind of like an alternate version of the pattern was a TK, TKK. Basically going from a triplet to like a triplet, double. And it was just doing the part, which doesn't require too much movement of the tongue. And so I was practicing just doing that, just the K to the rim shot as part of the rhythm. And it was actually easier to do that faster. It sounds like. It's very subtly different, but you're not getting the hi-hat each time. It's going. And it's going triplet, double like that. It's pretty subtly different, but it's easier to practice. And so I'm hoping doing that and just drilling that over and over makes it easier for me to do rim shots quickly. And then plugging that back into the triplet rhythm and pushing it through that way. Hopefully it'll improve both at the same time. But another pattern I've been working on that's just a cousin to the TKK. It's literally the same triplet pattern, but instead of a hat, K, rim shot, it's a kick, hat, kick, K, rim shot. So it would be a BKK. I guess that would be how you write that. Let me think here. Oh, I think it's actually BTK. Yeah, sorry. So instead of a TKK, it's a BTK, and it sounds like. And so if we compare them side by side, I know it probably doesn't sound different just by doing it slowly. TKK sounds like. BTK sounds like. You're getting the. And interestingly enough, that triplet is way easier to do. Maybe it's because the TKK requires really precise tongue positioning for every single hit on it, but the BTK, it's just the second and third because the B is with your lips, just like a regular kick. And so doing it back to back, it sounds like. And that one's way easier for me to do, and I haven't been practicing that one that long. But as an alternate to the regular TKK, it just provides a different sound set option. And so you start doing things like in a rhythm. Let's say you wanted to put together a technicality pattern that has a BTK and then an FT, an F hat, an FTK, which sounds like, I gotta be careful because what I did was an FTKKK, or FTKK rather, four sound, which sounds like, but an FTK triplet sounds like, that's actually kind of hard for me to think about. But if you put it into a pattern with the BTK and you alternate, you might get something like, and so it's alternating the triplet sound set, changing out the first sound from a B to a F or FT. And it's actually really hard for me to do that slow. I guess I've been practicing it so much just in high speed that trying to break it down makes my brain default to doing a 4 sound, because I've been doing the 4 FTKK for a long time. But now going to a different triplet, it's a little bit more difficult for me to do that slow for whatever reason. That's interesting. But playing around with, again, variation on just the triplets and the triplet sounds, if you get really ambitious with it, you could go BTK, FTK, TKK, and that would sound like 3 different sound sets with just the first note of each one different. So again, it would sound like, if I was going to do that, I'd have to practice that slow for a while, because jumping between those two isn't terribly difficult mouth position wise, but it does require a bit of thought, and it's not quite just second nature. But I thought about the idea of doing that triplet alternating pattern and plugging it into something. And so if we were to pick it up at like a medium beat and going, I reverted back to the 4s. We could even do it in 4s too. So it would be BTKK, FTKK, then TKK, or double hat TTKK, TKK, something like that. And that would be, that would be a little bit more difficult, but again, the core sound set I wanted to highlight there is the BTK, because it's the easiest of those for me to do. And so you start thinking about ways to Frankenstein's monster all of these different sound sets together, which is what I think the most interesting part of technicality in beatboxing is. So if you were to take, working in groups of 3 to make it kind of easy, you could do something like a TKP, BTK, and like an FTK or something like that. And so again, if you were to write it out kind of like a mathematical formula, and you're writing out the sets and you just sort of start pairing them in different orders, that's when you start making some interesting sound sets that you chain together to use in actual patterns and routines. So what do I mean by that in actual demonstration? So let's say we're doing a TKP, BTK, just 6 note sound set, because we haven't paired those together yet. What that would sound like would be, and I actually haven't done that one at all before now that I think about it. So it'd be, and if you put it into a beat, which is a little bit easier to demonstrate, maybe we do something like, six notes is difficult to slot into that. But the strategy in the whole demonstration thing is unchanged. You're basically taking 2 sets of 3, putting them into 6, and finding a way to make that fit the rhythm scheme for whatever it is you're doing. Sorry, that wasn't a super clean one-to-one example. But you could do the same thing with TKP to TKK to the BTK and switch the order around for 9 sounds in one if you wanted. You could do, well, that was like a TKP, KPT. Anyway, the point is, Technicality allows you to just endlessly mess around with combinations of sounds which fit together to form different kind of complex rhythms, and then you just practice doing that over and over again, and it enables you to get speed. And having all of these different sound sets on demand in your brain as you're trying to put together patterns and routines in beatboxing, that's the challenge. Because you can practice all day in a vacuum just doing these sounds on their own, but until you're out there actively trying to put them together into a beat, they're not going to really serve much function. Like, you could be showing someone who's never seen beatboxing before and say, oh yeah, you can do these really quick sounds together, and it sounds like, and it sounds like that, and they're going to say, well, that's weird and kind of impressive that it's so fast, but it doesn't sound like anything. And so the real challenge of application for learning all this stuff is saying, okay, if I get really good at doing these sounds, but I want to actually make a routine or pattern out of them, how am I going to do that? And that's kind of the next step. And so you'll see, kind of as we discuss this stuff going forward, I'll try and provide as many examples and actual applications of what I'm talking about in these discussions, so that it's a reference point. If anyone tuning into these streams decides they want to learn beatboxing and they want a resource to go back and say, oh, you know, I'm getting into Technicality, how does it work, or what are some good ways to sort of use it? And then hopefully it'll be something helpful that people can refer to in the future. And so moving on, we talked about the triplets. The triplet ones, I think, are the best place to start. I wouldn't recommend that people go and start like a 6-note chain just trying to learn in the beginning. But I talked about another one that I think it was last jam stream or maybe the one before, but it was a new practice one for the circular drills that I talked about, that I think I did a pretty poor job of explaining what it is because I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. But this one is a 6. No, I'm trying to think here as I haven't written it out. Maybe it's 7 or 8. This one's got kind of an irregular number of beats. And maybe we can map it out here. But the actual Technicality pattern sounds like, and has a zip in it, but the zip is very fast, so it ends up sounding kind of more like a sip with an S instead of a Z. If you slow it down, you can kind of pronounce the zip a little bit more and get something like, the faster you go, the less pronounced the zip becomes, but it's still part of the filler, and it's a little bit unusual. I haven't seen too many people do that type of sound in the middle of a fast pattern. But you're going, so 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's 7. Yeah, I think it's 7. It's 4 on the beginning, B, zip, rim shot, yeah, B, zip, B, rim shot, TKK. A little bit of a weird one to write out, but in doing it, it's, I don't know if it's really a syncopated rhythm, but it's got an kind of unusual rhythm. It's not just a 1 2 1 2 1 2 or 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. And so I don't know if it's like a modified swing tempo or what. Someone who knows music theory better than me could probably tell you. But it's kind of an interesting one to practice because as you loop it and it gets faster, it sort of changes a little bit, but it just sounds a little bit different. So I've been working on trying to get that faster until it's completely seamless and Again, still kind of a work in progress because I've only been working on this one for about a month, but I am kind of interested to see what you can do with it. Because you could do something like and switch up a TKP and rearrange the kind of end or the middle. So what would that sound like? So that's the entire sound set plus TKP, TKK. I think that's what I did there. Pretty subtle, but it makes it actually easier to loop if you do that. And so if we slow it down. Okay, if you do that, it becomes more of like a circular pattern, kind of like the one we used in the demo, the that one. It actually falls into a kind of similar rhythm when you do it that way. And so what I'll do after the stream today, because I've been bad about this, and you folks feel free to call me out on it, I'm going to put that new technicality pattern into the list because I haven't been doing that. And I think it would be good in case I have to refer to it later so I don't forget. Just in the off chance I don't practice that particular sound for a bit, I should probably write it down. That way I don't forget it. But I call that the B zip technicality pattern, or the kick zip. Doesn't need a fancy name. But the I'll put that in the list. In fact, you know what? I'll do it right now. Because if I don't do it now, I'm going to forget. And I can also pull up the master sound list. It's just a spreadsheet document I have. And I can see if there's any other patterns that I haven't talked about recently. So this one is B zip B TKK. B zip BK TKK. Yeah. We'll save that on here. And interestingly enough, I had the BTK one on here as well, and I just forgot that I wrote it down because I haven't looked at this particular list of technicality patterns in probably 3 months. But the one we talked about earlier, it's on the list. So maybe I should consult my own list more often. We got a hydrate from Iconic. We'll drink more of the water. Let's see, what do we have on here? The TKP loop. Okay, and that should be the top of the list because that's the first one I ever learned. But we also have the double zip triple kick. Oh, I remember which one that is. We've talked about that a little bit before. I think when we were going through, let's do a recap just for the sake of review here. So we're talking about the zip sound. Again, one of my favorite sounds, but not specifically invented by me. I'm sure it exists out there. It's just not one I hear very often. And that's one that sounds like. The chain here is double zip triple kick. And sounds like. So it's weird because it's 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. If that makes sense. It's a zip and a eighth note rest, and then zip triple kick. So it's basically two sets instead of 1, 1, 3. And again, that sounds like. And it's the. That's the second half. So that one works best as filler. You can't really do that super long, prolonged in a chain, but doing it back to back as sort of filler works pretty well. And that, I don't think I've ever heard that sound set in technicality in another beatboxer's routine. Maybe it's a little bit different, but again, not a lot of people use the. So that one is kind of interesting. Let's see the next one. Zip TK. That's not one I use. I wonder why that's on the list. Unless this is supposed to be zip P TKK. Problem with doing that combination is the zip uses your lips, and setting from a zip to the that's pretty difficult. I'm gonna have to experiment around with that and see. Let's see what else is on the list. Outwards K zip kick. Oh, okay, that's that one. So that one's triplet as well. And if you do it back to back, it sounds like, kind of sounds like a record scratch almost. And you can double up parts of the zip to sort of switch up that one. I use that as filler in some of my patterns as well. And it's kind of interesting because, again, not really a common combination of sounds. I don't hear people do that particularly often. But if you're doing something like, which is just a K zip triple kick or double kick, triple kick. That one's kind of interesting. Next one, K. What's KP? I'll have to look at my own terminology legend here to remember how I wrote these. Outwards K zip B. Oh, that's just a way of writing the one I just did. Next one, sucker punch. Oh, that's the sucker punch drag. So if you guys listen to whenever I do like a drop a beat, redeem, or anytime I start anything, it's usually kind of my signature just opening thing that I developed and just do out of habit now. But the sucker punch drag into an inwards K is how I start most of my beats. And that's one that sounds like, that has just kind of become my thing. It's a little bit unique. Again, sucker punch, using your tongue and mouth pressure to seal your tongue to the roof of your mouth as you breathe in and block the airway. And you do that forcefully, you get, sounds kind of like a reversal on like a turntable or on vinyl. But if you take that and pair it with kind of like a thip, instead of just keeping your mouth open and sealing your tongue for the sucker punch, if you just close your mouth right after and use the last bit of air to close, that's how you're getting a, almost like a hip, saying hip inwards. So that's the second part of the drag. And then the next part is doing another inhaled sound with your tongue sort of blocking your airway to get a hissing noise. That's how you're getting the. And so the sucker punch drag is just doing those in a triplet really quickly, and you're getting them. And again, it's not something I invented, but it's not a sound set I hear people use. But that's where you're getting that thing I always open my beats with. And it's just a triplet inward drag using. And one thing I also like doing is making it into a 4-note by adding an additional inhale in between. So instead of a, it's becoming. So it's just got an extra inhale. So it's 4 instead of triplets, and that's how you're getting them. Usually on the slower, more dubstep type breakdowns, that's where that comes from. So you're getting like a, instead of a. So just a real quick aside on inward drag technique. Technically, I consider that like a technicality pattern. That's why it's on my list here. Let's see. Another one, the co-PT. Okay, so TKP, the co-PT flips the syllables around and changes the K to a co. That's the. Very subtly different, but it's the first syllable that's different, first sound in the set. So I tend to switch in between and rotate those in and out. It's really subtle, but it is a different sound set. And then the rest of these are ones I've already talked about. We have the FTKP. I don't do that one that often. Instead of, oh, that's a 4, so. I don't remember that one. That one needs some practice. But anyway, I don't want to spend the entirety of the time talking about just the technicality patterns, but I need to consult this list more often because there's some stuff on here we haven't really talked about. That'll be a good discussion to revisit in the future. I guess before we start moving on to some of the practice stuff, since I did want to take some time and get some BGM ideas together today, since I think I cut our last session short a little bit, we could start experimenting around with all of the stuff we've talked about on technicality and maybe work in a little bit of bass overview as well. And that's what I kind of want to segue into anyway. And so real quickly to talk through what we discussed last time where we introduced inward bass, and hopefully I can give myself enough time to warm up to do this better. Just to recap, the main outward vocalized basses that I know in beatboxing would be throat bass, the lower version of throat bass as you drop in octave and in sound on a more of a subharmonic level, you get vibration bass. So instead of a you're getting a and if you drop even lower on the vocalized basses, you get vocalized chest using the rumble of chest bass plus a sung note, and that's how you're getting a or if you tighten up while doing the vocalized chest bass and go really high, that's how you're getting a very Marge Simpson. Homie. So vocalized chest works in high and low register. It's very useful and doesn't put a ton of strain on your voice. Hey, Ladybug's here. Ladybug says, I learn something new every day. Love these streams. Oh, thanks, Ladybug. Beatbox and beatbox technique is something I really like talking about, and it forces me to learn the material better. So hopefully it's interesting to people who might be curious about getting into beatboxing and learning beatboxing technique. And if nothing else, it forces me to get better at the material so I learn it better. And so, yeah, like I tell everybody else, these are open forum discussions on these jam streams. It's not just me here trying to show off. I always welcome questions, so feel free to stop me or ask questions about whatever it is I'm discussing, or if I do a sound in something that you want to know, hey, how did you do that one sound? Then yeah, that's what these are for. Actually, let me update my caption. I'll just change this to regular sound theory, since this is going to be a catch-all. Do it like that, and then I'll cover all of the bass type stuff too. So we talk about all of the vocalized outward basses, aka the stuff that is generated by either breathing out or using your vocal cords in some way to generate the sounds outwards. Inward bass is exactly the opposite. You're breathing in and using your vocal cords to create the sound. And so the way I demonstrated it last time, we'll see if I can do it consistently here. If you sing inwards, which is the way I learned how to do it, there's a bunch of different tutorials from pros out in the scene explaining it, because inward bass is probably the highest demand and popularity of sound. because it enables really low, really low bass sounds once you get good at it. But it's a very unusual type of technique because we don't walk around speaking inwards. We don't talk inwards. Everything is outwards, right? So if you try and do a sung note and do it inwards while breathing in, it teaches you a bit about how to control your vocal cords to where you can get sound out breathing in. So to demonstrate, we just take a sung note and try and sing it inwards while breathing in, it would sound like, and it's not as powerful because it's, again, not as natural as doing it outwards and doing like a but the more you practice and learn how to control that section of your vocal cords to get the sound to come out when you're breathing in, that's how you're getting a and ultimately, I'm hoping that I can get good enough that someone can't tell the difference. If I were to do the sounds back to back, you could definitely tell. So if I were to do it outwards and then immediately sing it inwards, it would sound like you could tell it's a little bit lower. It has a little bit of distortion on it, but it's the same note in two directions. Not at the same time, obviously, that's impossible, but all the way out, and then you can tell once I pause to breathe in, that's when it's coming inwards. So in taking that throat position and learning how to hold that note when you're singing inwards, you just have to start dropping it lower by relaxing your vocal cords and pushing it, physically pushing it, not like with the hand, but pushing it in your throat lower and lower to drop that pitch. And then the sound goes from to it starts to rattle. And then the lower you go, the more of a subharmonic sound you start to get. And then as it drops further, it goes. And my throat's a little dry, so it's going to probably sound a bit more rattly than normal. But as you're dropping the sound in your vocal cords, that's the inward bass. And you can do it with the mouth closed, mouth open, and changing mouth position does affect the airway in your throat, and it changes the way the sound works. So if I do it inwards, but keep my mouth closed, it would sound like. And again, it sounds kind of growly and rattly, but that's the point. It's supposed to be a lower, more rumbly sound. And the more you work with it, the more defined with subharmonic overtones and everything else, it gets a lot more bass-like instead of just a growl. Because it's not supposed to be like a fry. It's not supposed to be dry and crackly. But as you learn, that's what kind of builds over time. And you mess around with mouth position by, let's say, putting your tongue to the roof of your mouth to open up that, to drop your jaw essentially and open up your vocal cords. It goes from to, and I've been talking for almost an hour now, so my voice is getting tired, so you'll hear my voice cracking like that. The more you do and train with inward bass, the more endurance you get, and that goes away. When I've been talking for a while, it's unavoidable, but the sound is super fascinating, and once you learn it, it's just a matter of practicing and getting comfortable with the throat position, because it feels very unnatural and it will hurt your throat in the beginning. But I think for me, because I've learned all of the outward ones first, my throat is already conditioned to making those types of noises, and so it's just getting endurance on the inward motion as opposed to just the motion, period. And so to sort of offer like a sound check, even though my voice is tired, it's not going to be 100% fresh. The inward bass, I think I'm probably halfway towards actually getting to a level that I'm comfortable with. But taking that sound and just practicing, and it doesn't have to be part of a pattern. In fact, you won't hear me using it in patterns because I'm not that good with it yet. I'm still learning. But that's the next step, is getting the technique down enough that you can do it on demand. And so we'll check in with that one periodically, because I've talked about it for like a year, and then I finally demonstrated it somewhat effectively in the last jam stream, So we'll check in here or there, and I'll kind of explain what I've learned and how the sound is progressing. And so with that, let's see, we're looking at about an hour. I think I want to transition to the BGM brainstorming part and then spend the majority of the stream doing that. Maybe next time we will look at doing a freestyle drill, because here, I can pull it up on OBS here. It's been a while. It's probably been 4 jam streams since we've done that, but I was timing myself using all of the stuff built into OBS to see how long I could freestyle in beatboxing before I either get tired or run out of ideas. And personal best last time we did it was 17:37. Okay. So that was almost 18 minutes straight of coming up with patterns, routines, and stuff without repeating, running out of ideas, or physically stopping, which meant no water. That is challenging. But in the future, maybe next time, we will try it again and see if we can break 20 minutes. It is a challenge, but it's a fun challenge, and it forces me again to think on my toes and come up with things on the fly and apply all of the different techniques and all the stuff we talk about on these jam streams. And maybe someday I'll have like an hour straight of freestyling without stopping. I think that'd be impressive, but we're not quite there yet. So let me fix my camera and sit down, and we'll move into BGM brainstorming. Where's my chair? In one sec. Oh, it's nice to sit down. Feet get tired standing in one spot. Okay. We'll change the caption. To BGM brainstorming. Iconic says sitting is good. Yeah, the problem is it's a little bit tougher for me to do beatboxing stuff when I'm sitting down, because I can't, I don't get as much air, essentially. I'm sitting over here at my computer, hunched over like a gremlin. And so that's why I do the initial parts of these streams standing up. But for BGM, it's a little bit less important. I'm not doing full-on routine stuff, so that's why I can sit down for these. When I have the synthesizer hooked up, I have to stand up because I don't have enough space. But for now, I'm shelving the synthesizer for the jam streams, just because I can't have my mic boosts on to talk to you folks without it interfering with what I'm recording on the loop station from the keyboard. It made a couple of the stuff the things that we've done on stream unusable when I went back and listened to them, because I essentially had my mic turned way up and all of the boosts turned off, because that's what was causing feedback. But it really messed with the sound channeling on the recording for some reason. So rather than worry about that, I'm going to just focus on doing BGM stuff with the loop tools exclusively, and then we'll kind of figure that out. Ladybug says, right, kind of like for singing. Yeah, I don't know how people can sing, for like unplugged performances or whatnot. I don't know how people can sing sitting down. I can't do it. I guess I need a lot more wind power in order to sing personally, so I have to be standing up. But same deal for beatboxing. You use a lot of lung and diaphragm power in order to do all of the things and create all the sounds in beatboxing, so it's a lot tougher for me to do that sitting down. But I can do it. Like when you hear me playing video games and someone redeems the drop a beat redeem, I don't suddenly stop and stand up for that. I can do it in small bursts, but for an hour of talking about beatboxing, it's easier to stand up. So that's how that goes. All right. So we got everything hooked up. I want to do something a little more higher energy or higher tempo today. I want to do like an EDM or like a dance type track. And so this is going to be an interesting challenge because I don't have the synthesizer instruments to sort of help supplement everything. We've got to do it all using beatbox sounds on the loop. And so it'll be an interesting challenge. And so let's start with establishing the beat. And I'm thinking we do maybe a somewhat quote unquote stereotypical club type tempo, and then we see what kind of instruments we can pair around that. And so we need a kick. And I was thinking quarter note kicks to start, and we construct the beat instrument by instrument, which we've done before. So something like a, but we can throw a filter over it, and this is gonna be difficult because it's tough for me to hear. If we throw a filter over it and get kind of a more muffled kick, that might sound a little different. So let me see what that sounds like. Okay, so maybe we can do a layered kick. So we do the muffled filter one and then pair it with something else, like maybe an unfiltered kick, and kind of combine the two together. So we have a punchy but somewhat muffled kick. And because we can overdub on our same loop track over and over infinitely, I think we can put together as many combinations as we want. That's what makes the loop so powerful. And so let me see if I can record the bass filtered kick, and then we'll see what we can pair with it. Because I essentially have to record it and then listen to what it sounds like. It's hard for me to hear it in real time until it's played back. So let's see what we can do. All right, this is going to function a little bit like a metronome. But if we were to take this and maybe back off the mic a little bit and do a slightly softer, unfiltered kick on top, let's see if we can make it so that we don't lose both sounds and we kind of put them together. So let's see. Okay. Well, it's not off beat, which is good. Usually it takes me a couple tries to get it exactly on beat. Almost sounds like a really fast heartbeat. We can work with that. We can throw on reverb, and now we want the hi-hats. So maybe we do off beats for the hi-hats. So something like, and we can put reverb on, just a little bit of echo on that. But not make the third one louder than the others. There we go. Now we need a snare. Now snare, we could do a sharp outwards K. I was thinking BGM, like a spit snare, but I think that clap might be a little bit too aggressive for this. I guess we can try it. You know, that's not bad, but it's a little bit loud. So let me back off a little bit and do that again. What I'm doing is I'm using undo redo to undo the last recorded layer on the track, and it only goes one deep, so I can only do it one time, the most recent thing recorded, but it means I can just undo it and then redo the dubbing and try and fix it. So let's see if we can do that clap snare, but make it a little bit softer. a little better. I actually wonder what it'd sound like filtered. We don't do a lot of filter on percussion instruments. I've been messing around with that more with the synthesizer. But if we do a filtered BGM snare, I wonder what that sounds like. Okay. Due to the oscillation of the filter effect, it is doing two different snares essentially. Because the filter effect sort of warbles and oscillates whatever is being input into it, I might have to turn it down or maybe turn it up. Sorry, I was filtered. I might have to turn it up a little bit to keep it from alternating. Yeah, if I forget to turn the filter off and I try and talk, then it's going to sound like I'm speaking underwater. Sorry about that. So the BGM snare is not consistent because of the oscillation of the filter effect. So if I turn it up, that might reduce it. So let me turn it back on and we'll see what it sounds like. Okay, that's a little bit more consistent. And if we turn it up maybe 10% more, it'll stop doing the sort of variation altogether. Let me turn the filter effect up a little more and try it one more time. Okay, it's still not identical because you're getting some variance from the actual filter effect, but I like the way it sounds. I just think it needs to be softer so it's not absolutely dominating the mix with the kick in the hat. Let's turn it off one more time, and I'm gonna actually turn my mic sensitivity down. Just gotta remember to turn it back up so you can hear me. All right. That's much better. One thing I need to remember to do more often is if I need to back off on a sound, just turn my mic sensitivity down so that it's not recording at quite high a volume, and then that's how you get it to drop lower in the mix like that. Because these are all on one layer. They're not done instrument by instrument. You could do it that way, but putting it all on one basically means we have one percussion rhythm layer to mess around with, and I think that's a little bit more flexible. So that's why I do it that way, but that's not the only way to construct the rhythms. So now we need a bass line. Could go synth. I'm still trying to figure out the synth effect in the loop station. It's kind of weird, and I get the feeling changing the settings around is what affects how it hits. But where is it? Let me turn it on here. Okay, it's going to be on the same track as my boosts. So let me figure out where it is, and then I'm probably going to drop out in volume, but I'll turn the boost back on to talk. So I'll toggle it. I think it's on A. All right. I'm gonna be a little low in volume for a sec, so I can explain what I'm looking at here. The synth takes input and it creates that wow synth based on the input, but the sound that comes out is determined by a bunch of settings within the actual instrument itself, and I cannot for the life of me remember what the default settings are. So let me see if I can get it to come out so it's not just so truncated. So you probably hear a bunch of weird noises when I'm fiddling around with this. So give me one sec. Alright, so basically by tweaking a couple settings, I can get it to come out if I just kind of go and do like a real short vocalized hum into the mic, but it's not prolonged. And I think the default setting for synth does that, but whatever I've tweaked it to on this particular file, it doesn't do that. So let me check one more thing. Okay, now that sound is specifically restricted to input A. So let's turn the boots back on so I can talk normally. I don't think that one's gonna help. I'm gonna have to go back and figure out why that one is set up so weird. But that's okay. We got other things we can do. Let's see if we can come up with a bass line. And we can use guitar to bass, mess around with the kind of sung notes that I've done for a decent amount of these tracks. I think the real question is going to be, what would we want for an actual bass line? I need to watch my playback here. I'll drop the rhythm down a little bit till I actually record something else. I think we want something a bit more bouncy. I don't want to do sustained bass line notes because it's going to sound kind of similar to other ones we've done. So maybe I'll do offbeat. Like, and one, and then maybe do some notes that way. So I'm going to turn guitar to bass on and noodle around with some ideas for the bass line. So I'll turn it off when I need to talk. All right. Ooh. My bad. I have my mic turned up just to do the bass. Let's make sure that's starting and stopping at the same time. Yeah, I think that's starting and stopping at the same time. We'll leave the bass line there for now. I'll think if I want to layer anything else over the top of that. Again, it's a little bit more difficult now that I don't have just a full suite of instruments on the synthesizer to use. but that's part of the challenge of doing the BGM songs this way. But now we need some sort of high melody. Here, I'll drop this down a little. Let me know if I'm competing with the playback on the actual tracks themselves. Since I'm having to constantly adjust my mic volume, let me know if all of a sudden like you guys can't hear me. All right, save our work. Would like to not accidentally delete my own work again. But synths, what would be a good high note to, or high type of melody to pair with this? This time I would like to do something a little more sustained. But let's see what options we got here. If you think about just the bass line and the rhythm, we have some interesting effects that we can put into play at the track level once we get further down the road on this one. We could do something like make it broken up using the slicer command and sort of fragment everything that's playing back. And it would sound like this. That particular pattern just makes it sound like it's cutting in and out. I was hoping for something that sounded a bit more rapid. Yeah, that might not work then. We don't want it to sound like the sound is just dropping out. But we can also sort of cut it up with beat repeat as well. If we wanted to build up to something like a drop, or if we wanted to loop a certain section of the rhythm and bass line, that's what beat repeat can be used for, which is kind of handy. Depending on what part we throw beat repeat in there, it chooses a section of the loop, whatever it is you've started and stopped, and it loops that. So you can actually have it looping different parts depending on when you turn that effect on. And so this is just looping basically the first part of the rhythm, the kick, and the first part of the bass line. Backing off on the beat repeat opens up the measure of how much it's repeating, and so now we're getting the snare and the same part of the bass line. And if you turn it off, then it goes back to normal. Flanger effects. So there's a lot we can do to the actual tracks as far as affecting how they're being performed, in quotes, in the final version of the song. But we need to come up with a good synth or high melody to complement this. So let me take a look and see what we got. Could try and experiment around with granular delay. That granular delay plus filter effect we've used, it creates that kind of faint, I'll see if I can make it louder, but it creates that synth chime kind of noise, which is really neat, but it's hard to control. So let me see if I can turn it on. We'll see if we can slot in something that's going to complement the two tracks we've gotten so far. All right, let's turn everything back on so I can talk normally again. And so that combination of noises with the filter plus granular delay, it sounds almost like a theremin. It's very short, kind of truncated notes, but that kind of noise is very similar to what you would get with a theremin, which is a really interesting instrument. But that is functional. Let's save that, because that would be very difficult to duplicate if I have to do it again. But turning my mic way up is what allowed me to do that at a volume you can actually hear. So that's good to know in the future. If I just boost the mic input, that's how you can record that particular combination of noises. And I think we did this on the last one too, so I need to be careful how much I use this particular type of instrument. But if you reverse it, you get kind of more like it sounds like something being kind of played in reverse, but it's a neat effect. It's because of the resonation on it. I think I'm going to probably drop that particular sound down in the mix so it's really faint in the final version, because if I make that super loud, it'll be really annoying to listen to. But let's see what else we can mess around with and add to the mix here. Could try ring modulator. That one, let's see. What happens if you pair that with filter? The ring modulator is the one that sounds kind of like almost like a ray gun. It creates this really kind of ring distortion over anything that's input into the mic. So if I do it while I'm talking, it sounds like this. It kind of sounds like an alien voice, but it behaves differently depending on the type of input. Like, let me try doing like a click and see what that sounds like, because I don't remember. I haven't used this one in a while. Something as sharp as a click. It gets a little bit of distortion, but it doesn't completely drop out. You can still hear the click in the input, so that's interesting to know. We could let's try and combine ring modulator and filter to see if it mutes it into kind of more of a synthesizer note, because if it works that way, then I might be able to create like a sung note and then pair that with everything we've got so far. So I'll turn it on and we'll see what it sounds like. Alright, turning the effects off real quick. I think they cancel each other out. The filter mutes everything so much you can't hear what the ring modulator is actively doing. So that's not going to work. So let me try a couple other combinations and see if we can create a good effect that we can pair with everything. I might have to jump between a couple, so I'll turn the effects off if I need to explain something real quick. All right, let's turn the mic back on. So what I did there is I combined, I think was it phaser, one of the other ones next to filter on the effects, with the ring modulator, and it creates a synthesized note. But it's again hard to control. It's actually tied to pitch. The fluctuation on the effect itself would cause it to kind of warble a little, but in order to change pitch, I'd have to sing at different pitches, which is what I did here. It's interesting, but it's slightly off key, I think. But it does something kind of interesting with the track. And so what I'd like to learn is how to tweak the settings of that ring modulator in order to change how that kind of weird alien effect comes across, because it's not static. By tweaking other things with the setting, you can change how it's affecting the noise. In fact, we might be able to figure that out just by experimenting here. So let me drop these down in the mix. And I'm going to turn on that ring modulator, and I'll probably start making a bunch of weird alien noises. But if I change the settings, we can see how it actively changes what's going on. So let's see if we can figure that out. Okay, that's interesting. So the main thing you have control over with the ring modulator is what they call balance. And there's another thing in there that I haven't quite figured out what it does. Frequency. So you can change how the sound is resonating, but it doesn't really change what it sounds like. What changes is whether or not it kind of goes crazy is the intensity on the actual dial itself. So the level of the sound, not these individual things. And so that's interesting. That means ring modulator probably works well when paired with other things that really affect its sound. Because by itself, you can tweak minor things, but I couldn't hear just on the playback what was changing. I was adjusting frequency. Like, here, I'll turn it on again. Oh, frequency is the knob, sorry. It's balance. So if we turn balance on and I just crank it from low to high, okay, it's that tone almost sounds like a dial tone. The balance drops that out or brings it up into the foreground of the sound. That's what changes with that one. So it's almost all the way down now at 99.1. If I change it, you can hear the sound come out. That's what it sounds like. Probably makes sense to do a 50-50 balance on that one. But basically that's creating the tone. But what's changing what the sound actually comes out as is the frequency. So that's how you're getting up. Alright, so that's interesting. Sorry. That's an interesting thing to learn about that sound effect. I've only ever used it kind of on its own, but paired with something else that it does leave a lot of potential for things. All right, let's save our work here. Now, what would be another type of instrument to pair? We have one track open, and I can delete the ring modulator one if we decide we don't want to keep it. Let's see. I'm going to experiment around with combining that sound with something else. Let's see what's on. A has the filters, a bunch of the other effects. Let's see. If I find an interesting combination, I'll turn the effect off and explain what I'm doing. Alright, that combination of effects is the ring modulator plus pitch bend. And pitch bend, if you tweak the settings to whatever it is I have here, pitch bend does some really funky things with sounds. Normally it's just meant to kind of, like you would use a whammy bar or something that can bend something up or down, like on a guitar. It's meant to bend pitches, but if you tweak a bunch of settings, it basically creates this really funky distortion. Let's see, we can demonstrate. So just by inputting a sung note, it creates this almost like guitar distortion over it, which I forgot I had. So maybe we can fit that in here. I see Konik is heading out. Konik says, Gatko Raku, thanks for the chill jam stream. Wish you the best the rest of your stream. Much love, dude. Take care. Alright, Iconic. Thanks for tuning in and hanging out with us today. Always a pleasure to have you vibing with the rest of us. So I hope you have a good rest of your weekend, and I will catch you later. Alright, I'm going to clear off the ring modulator by itself. But I think we can do something with this pitch bend. I forgot that's how it works. I haven't done a lot of these in quite a bit. But let's see if we can combine. Maybe we can do the same note progression we just deleted. Alright, that effect is hard to use. I'm trying to get a couple of notes, like maybe a 1 or 2 note progression in here, but the effect is really hard to manipulate, and so it fluctuates a lot. But I think it has potential, so I'm going to mess around with that a little more, and also to make a note that I have this on here. All right, I think I found my combination. If I take that pitch bend and I put a filter over it, it becomes more like a synthesizer note. So I want to do that, but I got to figure out where to put the notes. Let me turn these off for a sec. That combination of effects is definitely what I want, but getting it to be locked in the notes I want is difficult with the way filter works. Because you hear me trying to record that same two sets of notes, but it's slightly off every single time. It's because of the variance in the filter. So I might try and switch the filter types, but I think this is the effect I want. I just got to figure out how to get the notes to sound right. So bear with me while I experiment around with this. I don't think I've ever used this combination of effects before. It's kind of interesting. That yields an interesting result. I'm not exactly sure if I were to keep that how I'd want the bass to the synth balance to go, but it's the same rhythm. That type of effect on that synth layer would work really well for a drum and bass song. I need to figure out how to control that better, but it's interesting. Oh, I can mess with the rate. The filter effect itself has a whole bunch of different presets that are part of it that sort of tweak how that muffled filter effect works. But combining it with the pitch bend, if you could find a way to dial back the distortion so that it's just a little bit muffled and it allows you to sort of do notes easily, I think that could be pretty powerful. I'm gonna go ahead and save this so far. This one, I might have to tweak this one a little bit more. But the combination of effects is interesting. It's an interesting set of instruments. I'm gonna mess with the filter settings. Again, I'm gonna have to turn all the distortions on so I won't be able to talk for a minute. But I'm gonna turn pitch bend back on and see if I can get it to sound correctly, and then I can always redo the synth layer that we added, number 4. So let's see. We'll turn that effect back on, and let's see if we can crack the code on this. I can always write it down. I feel like that's a lot closer. I see. Got a stretch from Sour Lad. Oh, back. Okay, so tweaking settings on filter itself definitely is getting kind of closer to that less oscillating sort of distortion sound, but it's not completely there yet. So let me tweak a couple more things and then we'll potentially move on. All right, turn the mic back on. This is an interesting one. This is probably one of the weirder songs that I've attempted to create. Let me drop the mix down a little bit so I can talk over it. I almost feel like the third kind of chimey synth and then the fourth one that I just added would be alternating parts. Having them both at the same time is a little distracting. I also think that it was a mistake to record this particular synth that I have going here on an offbeat to start. I think it should be on beat, so I might have to delete that and redo it. Well, yeah, reversing it doesn't get it closer to the rhythm either. I think this offbeat melody would work if the bass line was offbeat too. Because the bass line is on beat and this is offbeat, then it sounds like it's stuttering a little. I don't really like the way that sounds. Okay, let's do one final save. This one, I'm to give that one some thought. I do like the basic structure of the idea, but it needs something else. I need to find a way to do string type sounds with the loop station. Like a high string synth would pair well pretty well with that, I think. And so one thing that's always a challenge when I'm doing these BGM brainstorming sessions, especially when it's just the loop by itself and no synthesizer, is I have to come up with more instruments and more ways to sort of complement all the different parts. Because I can do a rhythm easy enough. I can do a bass line fairly easily too. But adding in the melody and high parts is difficult because I have to use the instruments that I've got or the effects I've got on hand on the loop to create the instruments. And that's part of why I do this, so I can learn. Because again, this piece of hardware is extremely powerful, but I do not know all the tricks of using it yet. All right, let's save onto a new track. I'm going to go refill my water bottle real quick. So what I'll do is I will put, this is the previous one. I'm going to delete it and we'll start working on another one before we wrap up for today. But I'm going to turn the bass line and the beat on and just let that play for a sec. And then I'll be back in a minute with some more water. So I'll be back in 1 sec, folks. All right. Let's go ahead and turn that off. We'll clear this completely. And let me save this. And we will start from the ground up on another track here. I kind of want to do a drum and bass one. It's been a while. I think I've only done one, thinking back all the other BGM tracks. I think Run and Bass is the only technically drum and bass song I've done. I might be wrong. What we can do is put some stuff together and see what we get. And so for this one, drum and bass rhythms, thankfully a little more straightforward than some of the other ones we've done. So if we did just a real simple kick, PF to start, and then add some things like layered hats and whatnot, that should be pretty easy. Something like that'd be a good thing to start. And we could throw reverb, a little bit of reverb, and less reverb. Hey, Edward's here. What's up, Edward? Welcome to the jam stream. We're gonna try and see if we can come up with a drum and bass type track. We'll see if that pans out. All right, let's get the rhythm laid down here. Fix the second snare. Okay, that's better. What's the BPM on this one? Oh, 159. Okay, this one's going to be fast. Let's add some hats. Maybe we can add a click to the snare, but we can back it off a little bit so it's not quite as loud. We don't want to overpower the PF snare. Let's see if we can get a little more on time. And that's the second one. The first one's on time, but the second one's off slightly. There we go. And maybe we can add a throat kick to the regular kick to get a little bit more low end and punch. So something like. There we go. And I mentioned before on the last one we were doing that the pitch bend effect would probably lend itself pretty well to drum and bass. And so the reason why I'm doing this is to try and revisit that and see if we can add that in. And I think I'm just gonna do a sustained note, maybe a sustained 2-note progression, and then we'll go in and do the bass next. So we're gonna skip bass, go on to the synth line, then go back to bass. Okay, we'll placeholder that for now. That's kind of the effect I was going for on the last track we were doing. But now we need bass. Can't have drum and bass without the bass. So we go guitar to bass, and we go for kind of low. I gotta think. Maybe we go for slower, more sustained bass notes on this, just to give it kind of like a low end, but not sound too out of sync with the rhythm. So let me turn that on, and we'll see how it sounds. Okay. My bad. Mic was up again. I have to turn my mic sensitivity way up to do the guitar to bass. And sometimes I remember to turn it back down before I go back on mic. My apologies if that was really loud. Okay, we'll placeholder that third synth track because the bass line that I put in is a little bit different in rhythm than that synth line, but yeah, it's slightly out of sync. I think that's the problem. So if we start it from the top. Actually, it's not out of sync. It just depends on when you start and stop that third track. Well, I don't know. I'm going to placeholder that one. I'm not going to delete it yet. But let's save our work. But I think we have a good start here. So what would be a good third type of sound to pair? Could mess around a panning delay. I don't use that one super often. What I think it was, is it panning delay plus pitch bend? Panning delay plus one of the other ones gives us a pretty interesting combination of sounds. I don't think it was filter. Was it filter? Okay, that creates a similar chime effect to the granular delay one. In fact, it's actually easier to manipulate, I think. All right, panning delay plus the pitch bend creates a kind of similar, distorted, almost growling type of noise. Very similar to the granular delay. Those two effects seem like they kind of apply the same distortion. But I like the chime noise for the fourth track. That third one, I'm not sure about yet. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mess around with a couple other combinations of sounds and see if I find something I like better with a panning delay plus pitch bend. Okay, what I did is I swapped out the third track for that new distortion with the pitch bend plus the panning delay. I like it better, but I don't think I would have that playing constantly during the whole track. I think it'd be a little bit annoying. So I think I would do for the actual structure of this one is when I want that sound to come in, I would have it come in and then I cut it out. So it would come in periodically instead of constantly. So it'd be like, and it'd be basically cutting in and out so that it breaks up the rhythm and everything, the bass line, but it's not constantly going the whole time. I think that works a little bit better. Now, let's see. We want to do like a drop. I had track level effects turned off for the chime, the beeping. Okay, let's save that. That actually sounds pretty functional. That one took about 10 minutes to kind of put together and just experimenting around the different sound sets. The last one took almost an hour. The last one was considerably more difficult to put together, even though I wouldn't say it was necessarily a more difficult song. I just think the instrument set didn't necessarily suit that one quite as closely as the one we just did. So I actually like that. I'll think if I want to add anything else to that one, but pretty functional drum and bass track. What do we want to call it before we start to wrap up here? I'll turn it back on. Obviously, the balance and mix of the instruments isn't final. I'll figure that out once I actually record this one and put it together. But because I've been writing down all of the name track suggestions that we've come up with on streams, so I don't forget. For this one, I'm welcome to any suggestions, kind of capitalizing on the idea of a drum and bass-ish type tune. The synth line does kind of sound like a sonar. What if you called it like sonar pace or something like that? Since it's a faster tempo song and it's kind of being driven by bass line, the rhythm line, and then that high end synth, and then the low end is going to come in and out. So I kind of like the idea of sonar pace. Question is, do I have the word? I don't think I have sonar on any of my other tracks. You'd think I'd have them all memorized, all the titles, but I've done a lot of them, so I don't. Let's go take a look. Now we have on the radar, but not sonar, I don't think. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that as a working tile for this one. Unless anybody has any other burning suggestions, we'll put that on the list for now so I don't forget. Thinking about how this one would outro, I think I'd want to go bass line fading out, and then the last thing you hear is the sort of high synth or the kind of sonar noise. Okay. Well, that was 2 tracks. One, I think, is maybe 3/4 of the way done. I think I gotta figure out some things to add to that first one. It doesn't even have a name. But the second one, I'm more satisfied with. Might require a little bit of tweaking and playing around with the mix and maybe adding a drop in between. But at least we're 1 for 2, essentially. So not a total waste of effort. Before we jump off for the day, I did want to preview something that's going to be part of a project I'm working on next year. It's not going to be the next release. It's something that's going to be coming after. But, in fact, probably, maybe tomorrow, beginning of the week, I am going to be releasing a teaser for that next project. And it'll be on Twitter and YouTube. And it's going to announce what the project is and kind of some specifics in case I haven't already spoiled it for everybody. But that's going to be coming out. I'll try and do that tomorrow if I'm not too busy. And then it'll kind of kick off the stuff that's going to be coming at the beginning of 2023. So definitely keep an eye out for that, because I think some people will be interested to see who I'm working with on that one. But before we jump off, the track I want to pull up, I forgot where it was first, is from a project after that early 2023 one. This one's probably going to be spring. That's what I'm targeting, if I can get everything done by then. So let me see. It's not this one. Yep. Okay, I think it's doesn't matter. This one's part of that project. Doesn't matter which one I show off, I guess. I'm gonna turn the volume up so you folks can hear the playback. This is a prototype version of a track that's part of that spring release. I don't know if I'm gonna keep that oboe run at the end. It's something I threw in as I was messing around with this one last night. But the overall vibe for this one is a lot more chill. And it's gonna be part of an electronic themed series of releases. The way I've kind of planned it out is it's gonna be 2 albums. First one is gonna be electronic, like higher energy dance type stuff. And I think I talked about this before, so it's not news. The second album is going to be a lot more chill, ambient, kind of trip hop inspired stuff. And so this track is one of them. I don't know what it's called. I just recorded this one on the loop last night. But it's a bit more of like a laid back, mellow vibe. And so a bunch of the tracks on that second album are going to be similar in style and feel, kind of more like chilled. I think I've finished like 6 or 7 of them. But I gotta record them yet. I don't even have names for all of them. That's one thing I'll be doing probably if I get some time off around Christmas. But these tracks, the entire next couple of releases I'm doing outside of the on-stream BGM stuff that we do on these sessions, all the other stuff is going to be using the synthesizer and the loop. Different instruments combined with loop effects, not so much beatboxing for those releases. But yeah. And so this one will be part of that one. I think I've shown off one of the other ones, maybe last stream or the stream before. And so I need to go set some time aside and record these next time I get a stretch of time off. And then I got to start working on writing the first album's worth. I haven't done any of those yet. I want to do all the chill ones first. But yeah, so that's something coming for spring 2023-ish. And we'll see. So I think that'll do it for today. Before we jump off, let's see if anyone on the homie list is live. See, I Eat Dirt is playing Saints Row. We raided Ramen yesterday. We can go send some people over to I Eat Dirt. Haven't seen them in a while. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and turn this off, and we will go ahead and go to outro. And that we will call a stream. Thanks for everybody who came by and hung out. Hopefully some of the stuff was interesting. Next week's schedule I'm still working on. I'll post it for the end of the day today on Twitter. Next week's schedule is going to be weird because I got some work stuff going on. But once I figure that out, the stream schedule will go up. And we'll see from there. So thanks again for hanging out, folks. And I just realized. Not have my mic this time, so my apologies if it was a little bit hard to hear me. Last that stuff. Okay, let me fix it here for the tail end here. These tracks that I was previewing didn't have the boosts on because I wanted to avoid feedback. So my apologies if it was hard to hear me. But yeah, let's go raid I Eat Dirt, and I will catch you folks in the next stream. So thanks again for hanging out, and have a good evening.